Hi guys, whoever's there.
Hello and welcome, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. You are watching Funvocacy episode 21, and today is going to be one hell of a roller coaster. Today's meeting is a special one. We've got pretty much the entire board and then some joining us today to talk to you. It's a Ask Us Anything. It's a AMA, but with a U in it. And I'll introduce everyone who's on today with us quickly. We've got Samrat Chaudhary, we've got Jaggi, we've Dr. Kiran, we've got Dr. Vikas, and we've got Ajay. And of course, the monochromatic Kanav. So we'll open up to all questions today. Ask us legitimately anything. We have no holds barred today. And we're going to try to cover a couple of topics, get the banter rolling and talk and share our perspective about several issues. And while you guys are getting warmed up, joining in and popping up your questions, there's this interesting thing which we need to realize. Despite the ban, despite the several years of the ban in India, has the number of vapers in India gone up or down? So let's talk about that. Jaggi, why don't you do the opening?
Okay, Banana gets it. Okay, so well, look, there hasn't been a place I've gone to anywhere in the country, even new, where I haven't found half a dozen people not vaping. They're all vaping out there, okay, and they're at bars, they're in pubs, they're everywhere, and they're all vaping. I go to restaurants, I see them, in the smoking corner, standing outside vaping, and they're all disposables. So they are obviously a lot of them are new vapors. I don't see any one of the old vapors still walking around with disposable, except if they're traveling. But certainly the numbers are going up like nobody's business. That's what I see.
Exactly. Well, I saw a lot of vapors at truck stops. I saw truck drivers who vaped. I go to a small town called Nasrapur between Pune and Satara. A couple of villagers was vaping. I see this. I asked them also where they get it. Milta hai. So it's hard. It's really nice to see a lot of people moving in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in small villages. I mean, if you see Nasrapur, it probably has a population of less than about 300 people here.
Wow.
So that was wonderful.
See, I also think the number of vapers, has risen significantly. And see, in cities, though, I see everywhere. Especially when you go out, you see a lot of people vaping. But I was in Haridwar in December, and people there were vaping. So, I think, and I did ask them, okay, and I think most people who are vaping understand that it is less harmful. So, that whole propaganda that, we have banned it, so therefore it must be less harmful. I don't think it's working at the popular, at the ground level. So irrespective of what the intent for the ban or whatever, and the sort of impression that it gives, because cigarette is available, but vaping is banned. So, our fear was that, okay, people should start misunderstanding, okay, maybe this is more dangerous. So while there are people like that, I do encounter people online who say, but, this is more dangerous than smoking. I think more people, or the majority of people, do understand that this is less harmful. So yeah, I would also say that a lot more people are vaping, and these disposables have actually made access easier. They're a double-edged sword. I think we will discuss that later down. But, but yeah, certainly there are a lot more people.
I say the new vapors have gone up, or maybe the younger age group that was experimenting with cigarettes earlier is now experimenting with vapes. So, and because the availability of these disposable vapes is so easy, it's available each and every place. Every pan corner has it now. So I would say the teenage group that had to stay away from all this is now very much into it. Maybe the upside is the guys who used to experiment with cigarettes are now experimenting with vapes. Maybe a less harmful product. Experimentation will happen. That is for sure. So instead of cigarettes, they're experimenting with vapes now.
Isn't that better, doctor?
To a certain extent,
Yes,
yeah.
I would think.
See, you can't stop experimentation.
It's 5% harm because we have to put, we can't say it's harmless. That's why it's 5% harm. But technically, even that 5%
No, actually, yeah. So if you actually look at it, there is nothing in the world which is 0% harm.
Yes.
Even breathing is harmful.
Breathing in Delhi is more harmful than.
What are you talking about, Jaggi?
Here, I would like to point out. So, Clive Bates recently, I think just a day before yesterday, he wrote an article where he was talking about just this. See, when the harm from nicotine use, like smoking is deadly, it kills 8 million people a year. So it is the single largest preventable cause of death in the world. So, right, so it's super deadly. So there's a lot of paranoia and justified also against it. What if tomorrow nicotine became as harmful as, let's say, caffeine, or and the way we talk about alcohol? Then if more people used it, would that be more a bad thing? Because if something becomes less harmful, then our response to it, because if it is not killing people, then people have a choice, or it's within the framework of other risky products which are available, like alcohol, like caffeine also is addictive, tea is also addictive. So if it was within the acceptable level of risk to be publicly available, should there be that much paranoia about it, even if more people started using it?
See,
I think that was a very good article. Everyone should read it. It's beyond tobacco harm reduction.
Yes, I had actually had a look at that article. So that's, most of those points he raises are very interesting because it's rightly. I think he has divided the whole movement into 3 phases, and that was mainly because nicotine was earlier, or it was only through any source of tobacco, for example, a cigarette or chewing tobacco or something like that. But now that you've managed to, we have seen safer forms of nicotine, it's only the next step. So first there was a complete prohibition, and then there was a phase. Now we are still in that phase of basically harm reduction. But soon, like Clive says, we would be in a phase where that would become much more of a recreational nicotine use. That's the term he uses. So, and that is quite interesting. So if it is no longer harmful, you're no longer trying to save people's lives because they're not using any sort of deadly products, then what do you do? Something to think about.
Right. On exactly that note, there's something which I think we need to address. Since Dr. Kiran, you've been on a couple of Funvocacies, but you aren't, you're kind of a guest over here. So I need you. I think I'll just take the opportunity to introduce you.
Okay.
Dr. Kiran is a lung specialist.
No, I haven't.
Then
so I'm basically an orthopedic surgeon.
Orthopedic surgeon, right?
Yes.
Kana, we're going to break your bones and fix them at the end of this episode.
I may not
promise you that.
See, I'm okay. I love beating him, but so that but you've been having a lot of experience. You've gotten to work with a lot of people in the medical field, right? And you've seen some of this harm which tobacco does and smoking does and all up front. And that kind of makes you somebody who's definitely a level higher than, a level is probably an understatement, significant, many levels higher than most of these people who are making these policies and talking about what they're talking about over here, right?
See, the problem with our policy also, if you look at it, it's basically copied and pasted from the Western world. So there, the major problem is cigarettes. In our country, the major problem is oral tobacco. Zarda, gutka, khani, vagera, vagera. So we have just taken their entire program and we have just tried to fit it in over here. Problem is, your cigarette smokers are roughly just over 10% of the total amount of tobacco users. Just 10%. And all your policies are going towards those. So you're ignoring the BD smokers, you're ignoring the oral tobacco people. So that is where the problem comes. Now, see, they're not bad people. I don't think anybody in the ministry would actually wake up with an evil smile and, rub their hands in glee and today I'm going to, yeah, so exactly. So yes, so see, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You know, so definitely they would have the right intentions, but I think because of so much of misinformation going around, sometimes even the right people can have the wrong ideas. So what is more important? What is this one is we need to delink nicotine and tobacco. Somehow we need to remove because so far what has happened is they've been conflated. There was no safe way of getting nicotine. So the only source was tobacco. People use all forms of tobacco for the nicotine. So when you can only get nicotine from tobacco, it is right to sort of ban both or make them evil, blah blah blah. But now it's no longer the case, and you have to move with the times, you have to move with innovation, you have to move with science. So that's where the biggest challenge comes. When you reach out to our fellow doctors, many of them believe nicotine is carcinogenic, which is not true. So if you look at your pack of gums and lozenges available in the pharmacy, do you think the pharmacy would sell you a product that is carcinogenic? I mean, just leave aside everything else. Leave aside everything else. You're actually
Unless
getting a
it's Johnson
patch.
powder.
But you know what the argument comes from the other side, or it's okay to ingest it, but it's not okay to inhale it. So that's what they're
Okay, I'll just stop you right there. The same pharma companies have inhalers in the West.
exactly
The same pharma companies have and flavored inhalers.
correct.
So they also realize your gums and patches don't work for cigarette smokers because they need a hand to mouth, they need vapor and all those things. So they have an inhaler. So that argument also falls flat. And that is the biggest thing. It's like when you say that nicotine is carcinogenic, prove it. You don't have enough evidence. You don't have any evidence in any. So it may there have been bad effects of nicotine, but that's the same even for caffeine. That's the same even for any other substance. We look at it. So there's a very dangerous substance known to man called as DHMO. I don't know if you guys heard of it. Dihydrogen monoxide.
Sugar.
You can die from it. You can die from it. If it actually goes into your lungs, you die. And it is so dangerous. It is actually part of acid rain, and it's ridiculously dangerous. We should actually ban that first. But the only problem is, its actual name is water.
Now the bell is ringing much louder. I was trying to do that in my mind. Okay, two hydrogens. That rings a bell.
Yeah, keep it simple. H2O is nice. Why you have to give it such a loop?
That's the point, right? You can.
That's the point.
You twist it and anything and something that sounds new, you can blackball it.
If it goes into your lungs, you die.
Yeah, you know.
It's a part of acid rain. Perfect.
Yep.
DHMO.
Everything he said was correct. But we'll halt on the banter for a minute. We do have a couple of questions coming in, and I find this one very interesting, and I want to pop this one. So I'm going to target this one to you, Samrat. So just hear more carefully when I'm reading out the question. So this question is from Karan, and he says that he's been vaping since 2018. But lately, since he started using disposable vapes, he's facing issues of breathlessness. Seems like some issues with the disposable vapes. And this is a very important question to address. So I'm going to pop it to everyone. But Samrat, why don't you start?
Okay, see, my view on this is this. So I think a majority of these disposable vapes out in the Indian market are fakes. So they are counterfeit products, and there is and since it's all illegal, it's very difficult to ascertain what's a proper product and what's a counterfeit. And I believe even in counterfeits, there are different types of counterfeit. There are some which are better counterfeits, some which are really bad counterfeits. Now, my personal instances, I also got few disposables, and I started using them. And suddenly I was also feeling the same symptoms that Karan is feeling, and quick solution was to stop using that, go back to the regular products, free-base that I was using, and that symptom, they went away. So I think, and I think also these really high, that 5% nicotine, really high, high nicotine vapes. Now, for people who are used to using freebase, for example, so you're used to a certain amount of puffs that you take or the regularity of puffs. Suddenly, when you replace that with a really high nicotine vape and you're still vaping with the similar amount of puffs, then obviously you're like pumping in a lot of nicotine into your system. So that can also be a problem. So I think a quick fix would be to stop using those disposables and also a source. See, it's, this is again a very problematic thing when there is a ban. There is no, how do you tell someone that you source your vape from a credible source? Because everyone is illegal. So that is a problem. I think that is a problem created by the ban. And what I do worry is that there will be some counterfeit in the market sometime, which is like really bad for someone's lungs, and we'll have some problems. See, that Ivali case which happened in the US was a result of illegal black market THC products, right? So when you have a black market, then how do you control? You don't have any product or standard or any quality check or control.
THC is trihydrocannabinol. That's the marijuana oil.
Yeah. So THC. So that was cannabis, but still it was cannabis vapes.
It was not nicotine.
Yeah. Now, See, they were not nicotine, but they were still. But the point I was making was that they were illegal products, right? They were still illegal products. So now in India, all these products, and especially these disposables, we don't know. See, some disposables I saw being sold for $200. How could that? I 100% it's a fake. But what is it in that? There is, if these were regularized products, then they would have gone through certain quality checks. FSSAI or whoever is checking these products, right? But now there is no check. So we don't know what's in them. So I think it's, especially with disposables, one needs to be really careful what one is buying. And if possible, if it can be ensured that it, at least in some way, if there's a QR code or whatever to ensure that it's legit.
But quite a heady mixture and quite potent. And that's going to set you back if you're not used to it. And so that's going to be a problem. My solution is, if you are and you don't have a lower MG, I would say keep yourself hydrated. That probably helps you a little. That's one of the things we forget.
Jaggi, I'll just say that to my mind, when I think about it, see, there are pod systems with 50 milligram nicotine per ml that people have been using for a while now. But these disposables that have come in, they might have the same amount of nicotine. The problem could be in the vehicle. We don't know what is being used instead of propylene glycol or vegetable glycerine. What is being used in that? So that would be something that would be causing that breathlessness part of it. Now, I saw a video in which this guy took a vape to a pawn shop, and that guy opened up the vape and put some liquid into it because the liquid had finished in that vape, and he charged him 100 rupees for it. Now, people in the present time, since the vape ban, have been making their own liquids also. And to make 100 ml of a liquid, the cost to the person, if it's good thing, it comes out to be about 1,600 rupees per 100 ml of a liquid. So how did he put in 10 ml for 100 rupees? What did he put into it?
He could just be somebody who's concerned and he's another advocate for THR and he's doing it at a loss. Come on, dog. What's wrong with you?
Yeah,
it's possible, right? The guy is all heart, okay? Come on.
Yeah.
You get 30 ml, landed cost in India is about $900. Okay, 30 ml. After all the whatever they have to do, these guys, it's a no-brainer. 3 ml or 4 ml go into this refilling of this. They are just trying to save money. $100, $150 they are making over there. Probably he's added some more PG and VG and made that 30 ml into 60 ml or something like that, and cut down the nicotine also. But the point being over here is that at least you're seeing people not getting into nicotine with the gateway of smoking. They're getting in with vaping. Okay, fine. Some people stay on, and most people just get off because it's unsustainable in this environment. If it opens up, maybe you will have about 2 or 3% or 4% increase in those guys who stay. most people who don't experimented with cigarettes also moved away from cigarettes. So it's at least I look at it I look at it as if, you know, you're going in with 5% harm compared to 100% harm. Okay, and these panwalas and etc., they are idiots, but it's going to happen everything. Your katha, chuna, everything they do mixing. So it's going to happen somewhere or the other. Someone is going to get hurt. Like your illicit liquor and your illicit, anything illicit is going to.
Illicit is going to cause problems.
I think another factor is the transportation time. Because since these are illegal products, they're coming through illegal routes. So sometimes, even if they're legit, by the time actually someone is vaping them, it's been like 6 months or something. So that there's a deterioration of the liquid also. So I think that it's my personal thinking. It could be one of the possibilities, in these disposables, especially.
But I apologize. You guys are like, एक topic मिल गया तो पीछे पड़ गए उसके अब.
I'll just add one line to that. I think I will tell Mr. Karan this thing. All complaints have to be addressed to the Ministry of Health.
I have bought from a panwala outside the Ministry of Health, and I get right outside. There's the Ministry of Health board, and I bought it. I wish I'd taken a picture over there, but there was no one else to take it. Selfie, I'm not very good at. But I wish I'd taken it, and of course, that I wouldn't get that guy into any trouble. But he's right there at the gate of the Ministry of Health.
Yeah, see, going back to what you said.
There are lots of people in the ministry using the same vape also.
Yeah.
No, there aren't. Trust me, there aren't. So you basically see, I totally agree with what Ajay was saying. There's a latent demand for nicotine. So even if let's say you don't have vapes, the same people, the same kids, the same adolescents experimenting with vapes will be smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
There's a study out of the UK which showed that teen vaping rates are rising. But if you go into the study, it says those who have never smoked, they are still experimenting, and it's less than 2%. Those who have previously smoked now vape. So if you look at the health benefit, that's actually a benefit. But of course, when you look at the rise in vaping, you also have to look at the fall in cigarette smoking. They have to go together. So this is a true substitute.
I think this is something that we need to bring forward. When people say that there has been a rise in vaping and it is a major problem now, we need to show them that the rise in vaping is because there is a fall in smoking. And vaping being safer than smoking, it is a step towards a better future. I think we need to
see also to just add to what Dr. Kiran is saying. So the regular use among non-smoking teens is low in the UK as well as US. So it's not that in US there's like a huge number of non-smoking teens who are regularly vaping. There also the percentage is 1 or 2%. So that's really low numbers to drive policy. You cannot drive a ban on 1 or 2% non-smoking teens vaping. So I think you're right also, Dr. Vikas, that these are things that we need to push. We need to, see, they say, when there are these raids in school, so many e-cigarettes were caught. How many cigarettes were caught? How many cigarettes were caught earlier? And why was that not a news? And why is this a news? So let's also balance and at least rationalize what is happening, because this whole teen scare or teen epidemic. See, I think one of the problems is that smoking has become acceptable in society. So if I see a teen smoking, it doesn't even register, right? But if you see a teen vaping, since it's something new, it registers in your head and you're like, oh, okay, something new is happening. So I think that is also a problem. That the issue is becoming overinflated, and it is overtaking the fact that 1 million Indians are dying from smoking every year. I mean, that is what we need to, that is the problem. So that problem is being completely overtaken by this teen issue, which, if you look at facts, is affecting a very small percentage of teens who are not smoking, who have taken up regular vaping. because experimentation in that age group should not be, they experiment with a lot of things. We haven't banned alcohol because there is teen drinking,
Sex.
Sex. Ban sex. Yeah.
They experiment. They do experiment, right?
Yeah. Dr. Jain, this is extremely wrong. Like, now that you're trying, you're like, nay, let's ban this and that. I don't want to elaborate on it much, but like, jokes later.
Why don't we
guys,
file a PIL?
Sorry?
Why don't we file a PIL
about banning sex?
No. Why don't we file a PIL about the government not implementing the youth smoking and you have this whole act and everything, COTPA Act, which prohibits use of tobacco in minors, prohibits sale of tobacco to minors. Yet in the Global Adult Tobacco Survey, Global Youth Tobacco Survey, we have such high numbers of our teens smoking, of our children smoking. So why don't we file a PIL against the government saying, first you implement your COTPA, then you think about the PICA?
Kiran, the maximum that will happen, those guys will take dates and they will say, we are trying to accumulate data. And they will
newspaper mein chhapenge.
Constantly 6 years down the line, will be saying we're still getting data. And by the time, so the government is never going to answer that question because it's uncomfortable.
See, today, in Lancet, it's a very well-known scientific journal. 3 Indian researchers and from the tobacco control community, they have published a sort of a comment on how the gutka ban in India has failed. Now, so like bans, especially in developing nations and poor and developing nations, don't work. There is enough data from across the world to show that. So when you know that prohibitionism is not working in this sector, why not look at alternative solutions? Why not try new approaches? And I don't understand this. When you know something is not working and you keep insisting on doing more and more and more of this, if they were in the corporate world, they would be fired long ago. But here, they're in fact cornering millions of dollars in aid to just keep doing the same thing which is not working. And their data is showing that it's not working. So I find that a bit ridiculous.
If you want to look at bans, look at the Gujarat ban on alcohol. It's been there for decades, right? And the alcohol has been available in the same quantity for decades, okay? So it's not that it's gone anywhere.
Alcohol is also decayed.
Exactly, that's what, so it just exists. It completely exists. And if you're looking at bans, take your Gujarat example. It just feels very good. Yes. Okay, you've done your job. You brush it and you push it aside and you think you've done your service to community. But unfortunately, that's not the point, right? Nitish Kumar in Bihar is attempting this. You're finding people dying. He says, well, if you drink alcohol, you'll die. Listen, you klutz, it's not that. That's not the problem, I don't know when people are going to start speaking the truth. It may be uncomfortable, but why don't you realize it and do proactive things? Especially when you have mandates, massive mandates like these governments have been given. Yeah, you can take.
I think also, it's kind of lazy sort of lawmaking. Because see, lawmakers के देखो हमने तो कर दिया है बैन. अभी देखो पब्लिक नहीं मान रही तो इसमें हमने अपनी तरफ से सब कुछ कर दिया. हेलो सर, पर आपको पहले से ही मालूम था कि आप जब बैन करोगे तो उसका इफेक्ट नहीं होने वाला है. उल्टा एक ब्लैक मार्केट क्रिएट होगी. वो ब्लैक मार्केट में और हार्म ज्यादा होगा. आपको पहले से नहीं पता था. So why are you a lawmaker if you didn't even understand what the result of your actions is going to be? So I find that a little ridiculous and outrageous to a point.
I've been in contact with a few people in Canada and America, not not associated with vaping or harm reduction, but in another field. And there was this conversation and I just brought up this point that vaping is banned in India. And I got such a backlash out of it. There were people in Canada who said, we've got legalized marijuana now and the government earns so much revenue from that legalized marijuana. And there was this one lady from America, California, and she said, we've got legal vaping now and these vape shops have... the government takes the revenue from these vape shops now. So the government earns what they would from the tobacco industry. It's a win-win for them. They just need to legalize it and take revenue as they do from cigarettes. At least they'll be saving more lives than people who are smoking.
Because the funny thing is, Thailand, they legalized marijuana. It's available on street corners. It's available at every third shop. It's available. Vaping is still banned over there, but marijuana is available. Okay.
Yeah, I think this is being driven a little bit by the US policies. So it's very. We find it strange as people who have managed to quit smoking and know how difficult it was to quit smoking, and then finally we have managed. So for us, this is a boon. But I think generally there is this whole movement about acceptance for weed, but so I think in India also it is likely, in my view, that smoking up will be legalized before vaping is.
No, I have one. People ask about health and etc. I think probably of all you guys, I'm the longest vaper. I think 13 years. I don't think anyone over here is 13 years now. I've been vaping for 13 years. In my college days, I've never passed a PFT test. Ever. I failed it in college when I was at peak. I could play football and etc. But I've never passed a PFT test. My stress test before in 2008, when there was not the same, was 6 minutes, 5.5 minutes, 6 minutes. I should touch 160. Now I take 12.5 minutes to 13 minutes. I'm going up slowly on my stress test. My lungs used to be white. X-ray of my lung used to be white. White means it's whatever is black becomes white outside in the X-ray. Now they are completely black with few scars, white scars here and there. I don't know if anyone wants a guinea pig. I'm available. Take me. See my body structure. 13 years ka idhar hi DNA mil jayega. If anyone wants to do it.
Ajay, we're trying to keep it PG-13 today, so we're going to not try to force people to see body structure. I apologize. Sorry, that was an inappropriate joke. But guys, we are on a slight time schedule, and I do want to push other people's questions as well. So, Suraj Sharma has asked, "Hello, sir. Can a PIL be filed against a white paper?" And please, this should be a short answer. Whoever takes it.
What do you mean white paper?
Be a good idea for this.
The white paper that ICMR has come out with.
See, since it's in the scientific domain, and I think some 30-40 global or international scientists actually responded to that paper point-wise. They have critically taken down all the points made in that paper, and that should stand on its own. I don't see how courts can intervene in a research paper. No, I don't see personally any point.
Samrat, a white paper is not a research paper. A white paper is it's a recommendation by a government authority. It is not research. It is compiled data.
It's ostensibly based on research.
That's true. But at the end of the day, it is a point of view. Okay, so you can have differing point of view. So you can't take somebody to court for a point of view.
Because you have a point. Because see, Professor Sharan, who has been working in field of tobacco control, and especially in Northeast where tobacco use is really high, and he has published like 40 papers in this field. So he was making this point earlier, that white paper is actually a position statement. So it's in a very nebulous space between being a position statement, but it's reference to a lot of studies, because it's coming from a scientific institution, because ICMR is the principal scientific body of the government. So it's in that middle space where it is actually a policy statement, but it is presented as a scientific research paper.
Okay. Now this statement came out when the ban was put into effect. That's 2016. 16? No, 18. When was it?
18.
18. So it's 23 now. So it's like 5 years down the line. Science has not changed. Is that the position paper?
We all know what the paper was. See, and
Yeah.
look at the chronology of events. The government first banned all government institutions from publishing any research on vaping, right? And then after that, ICMR publishes that paper, and just after that, the government bans it. So it's very clear that it was done for political ends, and there has been, like, even in fact in case of COVID, there was research, or there was news that ICMR was towing the government line and saying what, the science was following the policy and not the other way around. And I think that's a general problem with a lot of things, not just vaping. I mean, just how free scientists in our country or research in our country is. That is a question mark generally, and not just for vaping.
Haji Kanav, your turn.
Yes, I have a question. I'm sorry.
You can also definitely pop your question, but we also have more questions. So the question which has been asked is okay. So this is going to have a slight overlap, right? With one of the topics which we planned to touch. And Samrat, we need your attention on this one again. This was the first question which was asked, and it was by Ahmed. And he just wants to know whether there is a plan to remove the ban. Are they going to remove the ban?
Okay, I wish, it's an answer that we all want. So, and it's not an easy one, but I can tell you a little more insight into what's happening. So I think the current government made up its mind. Now, why it made up its mind? I think in the court in Calcutta, when a case was filed, the government said, because Juul came in, we banned it because of Juul. So it was clear that there was financial, political, also given that government itself is a major stakeholder in the whole tobacco industry, right from, farming to selling of cigarettes, it has stakes in all of that. So I don't know it looks like that had a role to play in that. According to me, and this is personal view, and others can agree or disagree with it. So I think the solution either lies in the courts or a significant, because see that the health minister of that time is no longer the health minister. And from what I hear from various sources, the current health minister is actually quite balanced in his approach to a lot of things, including tobacco control. And I hope, because I don't have any specific information on this, but he appears balanced, because even when India spoke at the last COP, FCTC COP, the statement, it was a very balanced statement that India made. So these two, I think, are the focus areas. Either the courts can overturn the ban at some point, or there is a change of heart in the political establishment. And both need to be sensitized, and see, a Supreme Court case takes a lot of resources to file, a lot of money to file, which AVI doesn't have at the and I hope and I invite people who have commercial interest to look into this seriously and petition the Supreme Court to see what the view of the court is. I hope that provides some insight. I know we don't have a definitive answer, but that's the best I could do. And others can add in if you'd like to.
I would say that I think we stand a very good chance of, or rather, no, it's 100% that the ban will be overturned if we can get Samrat as our next health minister. And so I think that maybe, perhaps a little cheaper right now than fighting a court case in Supreme Court if you consider lawyer fee, okay? But jokes aside, any health minister was better than the previous one, okay? And this guy is definitely balanced. I would look at maybe a 3-4 year horizon for this to finally take off. I wouldn't expect anything before an election year because they're going to start throwing up, oh, you abandoned the children kind of dialogue. So these are all dependent on elections. I think once the dust is settled, we can look at it, but I'm looking at a 3-4 year horizon perhaps.
Samrat, to your statement of support from interested parties. I'd just like to add, anybody who vapes is an interested party. So anybody who would, in their own heart, would like to support AVI in their endeavor in filing the cases that, like the airport ban confiscation case, funds are needed. So if people can contribute whatever they can, it would be appreciated. I personally feel that way.
So I just like to add one thing. I think I agree with what Dr. Vikas is saying. The ban, as with most things, the ban itself has the means to defeat it. If you look at it, the ban has been the single biggest force multiplier for vaping in India. It has created so much awareness that there is something called vaping. It has made that sort of forbidden fruit that everybody wants to try it. And of course, those who would try and experiment and quit, but those who would have smoked cigarettes instead stick on. So the ban itself has led to a large number of people who are now vaping.
I think that's an important point also, because a similar thing happened in the US. When the US FDA just made so much noise, it actually ended up, I read some studies that it contributed to an increase in vaping.
There's no such thing as bad publicity, as they say.
Hey,
but
you
rolling,
got a point.
guys.
You got a point. Very few people knew about vapes. The minute this ban and this noise happened, a lot of people heard about vapes, and so in that sense, vaping did get publicized. Okay, we got a lot of negative stuff, but that also piqued curiosity and an interest to find out. So in that sense, that it did do some good, but not the way we wanted it.
Yes. But keeping the ball rolling, Rishi Rajni said we need to have practices of publicizing the true amount of nicotine, the list of contents in the juice, and the nicotine consumption per puff. And this should extend to disposables as well. Absolutely, Rajni. This was a necessity. This would have come under regulate, don't ban. However, things took a slightly different turn, and we have to bear with the consequences for now. Hopefully down the line, when they decide to legalize it, this will definitely be something they will go for. And Tel KP has been extremely active and wants to know if we see heat not burn being allowed even if vapes are not. And since a lot of countries which are trying to restrict vaping are still seem to be okay with heat not burn, since it's pretty much tobacco just being heated, not burnt.
So see, initially, I was very skeptical about heat not burn personally, right? But then we thought, okay, if we are talking about risk-reduced products, if we are talking about risk reduction in tobacco use, then we should be okay with, different ways that people would want to reduce their harm. So HTPs or heated tobacco products do reduce harm because they're not, we do know that combustion is what's causing most of the harm, right? So when you're not burning the tobacco, there would be significant risk reduction. Now the US FDA has accepted this. Products were submitted to them and they gave a PMTA claim to a heated tobacco product. So the US FDA, which has enormous resources, scientific resources to evaluate products, also thinks, okay, these products do reduce harm. Now, when there was a debate going on banning vaping in the parliament, there were some parliamentarians from Kolkata who had actually stood up and said this very thing, that why aren't you excluding HTPs from the vape ban? But the government went ahead and, said, no, we are going to ban everything. So HTPs are easier for tobacco companies to make because, they are basically you're just still making a kind of cigarette, right? Like which is to be used with that device. I don't know how useful they can be in the Indian context where, price sensitivity is huge, right? Like, you cannot sell really expensive tobacco products. But I also am hearing that in Philippines, they're launching a like sort of a cheaper version, which can be used by which is very similar in pricing to a regular cigarette. So I'm okay for it. It would be quite sad if HTPs are allowed, however, and vaping remains banned, because vaping is still significantly less harmful than an HTP product, right? So and like in India, they're not yet available, so I don't know how people would adapt to them. So we don't have that kind of data yet. But I don't see. Tobacco companies would surely be happy if HTP and vaping is banned. Some countries have done that. Taiwan, in fact, very recently banned vaping and also use of vaping, but allowed HTPs. In Japan, it's a similar situation. HTPs are allowed, but vaping is banned. So it could be, it could happen in the future, but the more ideal outcome would be that vaping is also part of the THR or harm reduction efforts from the government.
Being the devil's advocate, I'll just put a question to Samrat. How would an illiterate police wala know what's the difference between an HTP and a vape?
More importantly, and ganja.
Exactly.
See, HTP mein there's hardly any vapor or smoke or anything coming out.
Even then, he would not know.
See, at that level, things change completely. At that level, usko pata bhi hoga, so he'll still try to please and con, right? Which is what's happening, and maybe kind of taking a cue. You should move the conversation a little forward.
I definitely can. But Suraj Sharma is saying the government of India can try a prescription-based vaping model, which is for whoever wants to quit smoking, something like what Australia has done.
Or England does.
And yeah, Suraj, there are like 10,000 things they could have done. However, they rolled the dice and settled down on the worst thing they could have done. So
no, I think what he's saying is, why don't they slowly start reintroducing it as a prescription-based model? See, there are a few problems with that. Once you start putting it on a prescription, there has to be a medical license for it. None of these, in many of the countries, they're basically consumer products. In order to be certified as a medical licensed device or a medical licensed drug, it has to go through a lot more. It has to go through a lot more trials, safety, all those things. But more importantly, there's a study which says that a large majority of social smokers don't identify as smokers. So, how likely is a smoker going to go to a doctor and say, look, I'm a smoker, I need help? Most of the social smokers don't identify as a smoker. So this kind of a prescription model will not help the large majority anyway. And more importantly, most doctors believe that nicotine is carcinogenic. So how do you overcome that barrier? They are still reluctant to prescribe gums and lozenges. Ye to dur ki baat hai.
No, but even before you attempt to do anything like this, you should first revoke the ban on research, right? So I think you need to wind it back a little to even allow somebody. But then, truth be told, the Australian model has been failing. Okay, and we have enough and more reports coming out that the Australian model has been an abject failure. In fact, the members of parliament in Australia have spoken up that it has been an abject failure and it is not a path that one should have gone down in any case. So not very positive lessons to take from there. So that's just another point to keep in mind.
Yeah. There are two more points.
But on the other hand, I'll just add quickly one line. So on the other hand, there are a lot of us who feel that, at least if they were available somehow in the country, at least one way to get them would be to go to your friendly neighborhood doctor and ask them to prescribe you. So, yes. So, in that way, when you have a total ban, if you can sort of get it in that way, see, we will take what we can get at this point.
I was just about to say beggars can't really be choosers.
Quick points I'd like to make. Two very quick points on this issue. So, one, yes, the Australian model, if it was that successful, some other countries would have followed it, but zero number of countries have adopted the Australian prescription model, right? So obviously it's not, no one really thinks that's a model that can work. The Indian law, by the way, the Indian vape ban law does say that, okay, if these if these products were medically licensed, then they would be allowed. So from that point of view, yes, if there was medical licensing, at least they would be available in some way. Now, in UK, they have started the process of giving medical licenses to such products. The benefit can be that doctors can then prescribe these if they chose to, right? And as Dr. Kiran pointed out, that again is a challenge in its own way. But at least that route would be open. But see, and also as he pointed out, smokers don't think of themselves as patients. Even NRTs right now in our country are not affordable to even smokers, cigarette smokers, leave alone Bedi and Kenny users. So the price of a medicalized product will also go up. Also look at it this way: if cigarette BD is available at every nook and cranny, but to avail a safer device, you have to go to a medical shop and pay more. How useful is that going to be in the long run? So there is significant benefit in keeping these available as consumer goods and at price points which are similar or incentivized or cheaper than the deadlier goods. So there's a syntax. The deadlier a product is, the more costlier it is. By medicalizing these, by vaping, you're making the less harmful variant more expensive. So that again, it's not logical and it's not going to be very effective. But from the point of view of availability, yes, it's something worth trying.
Except I thought of something really twisted just now. So it is, so it's available from medical stores. I could claim medical insurance, my health insurance, saying, "Hey, this is an
you have to get
I'm quitting and I
for
get
that.
my vapes for free."
Imagine
that.
Get admitted for it.
No?
24 hours admitted for it.
No. That was the point of the UK thing. Because
Right.
it will be covered by the NHS. That's why it is being medically licensed in the UK.
We get our vapes for free, Sabrat.
Yeah.
We just need to tweak Irida to take care of that for us. And I think we'll be home free.
Jaggi, your audio has gone down a bit.
Fuck you.
Mic check karo.
So Jaggi just said error. So let's discuss that for a bit. And Dr. Kiran, would you like to just take over that discussion? Can you give us a little background of AHRER and its work towards THR?
Yes. So I'm actually me and as well as Dr. Vikas is also associated with us earlier. So we are part of an organization which is called the Association for Harm Reduction, Education and Research. So basically, see, as of now, there's nobody else doing any sort of meaningful harm reduction in tobacco in India. So we decided to focus on that. But that's not just our ambit. We're also looking at harm reduction, alcohol, lifestyle diseases, various other things. But right now, our focus remains firmly on tobacco. So see, as the first step, because we are a body composed of medical professionals, we're first trying to sensitize other medical professionals to this whole concept of harm reduction. And harm reduction is not an alien concept. You do it every day. So जब आप जाते हो बाइक में जाते हो हेलमेट पहनते हो वो तो हार्म रिडक्शन है सेफ सेक्स के लिए कॉन्डम यूज करते हो हार्म रिडक्शन सो एवरीवेयर हर जगह हम लोग हार्म रिडक्शन करते हैं हम सोचते नहीं है बट इवन इन आवर फील्ड देयर इज समथिंग कॉल्ड एज ड्रग्स हार्म रिडक्शन देयर इज समथिंग वेयर दे वेर needle exchange programs, methadone clinics. This has been tried across the world. WHO endorses it, and it works. So when you're looking at, see, if you can take the harm out of any sort of a behavioral problem. For example, if you're actually looking at a drug addiction. So from the exact point of view of a drug addict, if he's using some sort of a hallucinogen and all that, he's actually causing harm to himself. But it's more harmful by the way of using it. For example, a dirty needle, a used needle, stuff like that, or an overdose. So when you have a safe injection site, a supervised injection site, you can protect him from an overdose, you can save his life. So the other way of going about that is cessation only, where you say, don't do this, don't do that. So you know that doesn't work, right? In spite of there being so many efforts at cessation, we know that these things just don't work. If looking at it, see, many doctors smoke, many doctors use all sorts of tobacco. So many people ask me, how can doctors smoke? So I tell them, you don't have to be a doctor to know that tobacco is harmful. It's written on the packet. If you can read, you know. And even otherwise, the awareness levels are quite high. Everybody knows tobacco is harmful, yet we continue to use it. So, what if there was a way to reduce the harm of tobacco, which is basically harm reduction? So, the reason for smoking tobacco or reason for using any form of tobacco is nicotine. Nicotine by itself is neither harmful nor carcinogenic, if you look at it, right? So, take away the nicotine, separate the nicotine from the tobacco. There itself, you've reduced harm. So that itself is the basis of vaping. That itself is the basis of NRTs. In fact, to my mind, vaping is a form of NRT, nicotine replacement therapy. So at AHR, we are actually trying to we are actually trying to spread this message among other doctors. We are trying to spread this message among other people. We're also trying to engage with policymakers and trying to make a difference. And yes, so there is a big lacuna in our country when it comes to research. So we are trying at our level to at least get some research to be allowed. And of course, there's always a major impediment of funding. Most of the big research in India happens with government funding. So we're trying to get something like that going. But first, they have to sort of open their eyes to the possibility of research. If you're saying it's bad, let us prove it that it is bad. If not, there you are. So I think that's in brief what we're trying to do.
You're trying to basically fight the guilty unless proven innocent approach the government of India has taken.
It's not just the government of India, it's the WHO as well, unfortunately.
But that's WHO, the doctors,
yes,
so many people, so many important people whom we trust to make the right decision for us.
Yes.
What Kiran said, I'll just like to add to it. This is actually anecdotal. You drive on the road without a helmet and the police catches you and fines you because you're not doing harm reduction. Why is it that you don't have harm reduction for tobacco? You go to a red light area. You've not banned red light areas, have you? No, you've not banned red light areas. But what you've done is you've put up condom vending machines inside the red light areas so that people who go to the red light area can reduce their harm of getting AIDS or hepatitis B or whatever. So why is it that tobacco control has no harm reduction? Why is it that tobacco control, people when they talk about tobacco control, they say quit or die? Why is it that people don't say that ride a motorcycle, have an accident and die? Why do you say have a helmet? What the government can't understand is that there is reduced harm products available all across the spectrum, which we need to take up. We need to embrace that now. It is.
I think also
it is the time now.
Yeah. See, I there are two kinds of people I think in the world. One is people who want to make a perfect world. So those are the people who would like to put in or imagine a world when there is no nicotine use, like eliminating nicotine use from the world.
So eliminate the cultivation of nicotine. Eliminate the production of nicotine.
That, of course. Good point.
Because the question was put up in Parliament, and
get that. You nicotine को हटा ही दो ना, tobacco को खत्म कर दो.
Hey, Doc, Vikas, come on, hang on. We have not been able to get a statutory warning that tobacco is harmful on a packet of BDs. You want to stop cultivation of I mean, where are you going, man? I mean, even BDs are not taking it off. They've not been able to put a warning label on a packet of BDs. Why? Cottage industry, lakhs of people will get unemployed. That's the logic, and that's this thing used there. Okay, they protested, they took it off. It was there. I mean, the government did have a plan. It did publish it that it was going to put these warning labels on BD packets. There was an andolan. They quietly took it off. Okay,
but you also know about the tax breaks, right? If you make less than 2 lakh BDs a year, you don't have to pay taxes on that. So you get a tax break on BD making. Just imagine that.
Surrogate advertising of gutka. Now they have banned gutka, but that pan masala advertising, all the topmost stars are like, I was traveling through UP. Every 500 meters, there is this huge billboard and for a surrogate ad for gutka, for smokeless tobacco. So, we haven't even crossed those like basic steps, right? Like, and the entire, and Dr. Kiran keeps pointing this out in his writing, and I think it's a very valid point. The entire focus is on cigarette smoking, which is actually the smallest subset of tobacco use in our country. In fact, our law is called the Cigarettes and Other Tobacco Products Act. Should have at least been called BD and KD and Other Tobacco Products Act, when those products are the highest used products. So I think there's also a lot of politics involved in this. When I was in Chennai once, I figured that it is the government which distributes tobacco seeds and is responsible for cultivation and so the government is very deeply involved.
Paisa, Baba, paisa.
हाँ तो वही
Everyone's stunned into silence, it appears.
I know.
When there's paisa involved, everybody goes silent.
We are waiting for Kanav to give a question.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Master.
I don't know how to pop this, but I'll do it still. भाई मेरे वॉल्टर वाइट एक बात बताओ, ये हमारे कोर्ट केस का क्या हुआ?
तीन वॉल्टर वाइट
एक्चुअली तीन है.
My bad. Asking the Mogambo, what happened to our court case? What is happening there?
What are you talking about?
अरे यार मैं कैसे समझाऊं आज? French beard भी है.
आज तीन Mogambo है यहाँ पर.
Okay, the court case is as usual. The government is only going to take time and time. That's what's going to happen. That it's easy, and every date is 6 months later. So actually, we have never.
Someday they are going to succumb to their date.
Yeah.
Well, they are someday going to succumb to their date. What are we doing about it?
We are fighting every moment of that, every day of those, every day.
What I would suggest is, if you guys can do this, so anybody who gets their vapes confiscated at the airport, take a selfie with the guy confiscating it with your vape, with your boarding card.
Perfect.
Please do it. Please do it.
Might just be easier to take a picture of an alien flying over New York.
नहीं यार, मैंने 2 बार किया है, हो जाता है. मैंने दोनों बार किया है मैंने.
They've taken photographs of aliens flying over New York, so it's okay.
Yes, that is there.
I think we should also touch now the harassment by police on the roads.
Absolutely.
I think people need to know they have a right to vape because the ministry has given them that right to vape. They cannot vape in a non-smoking area, but if they are in a private area or any place where smoking is allowed, they can vape. And if a police officer catches you and does that, please let us know and please take it forward to the next step because we need to stop this.
By yourself, you might face a lot more harassment, but if you contact us, you'll have our support. You will not be alone in that fight. You will not have to face that harassment. We will make sure of it.
And one, I would just add to it. Please do not succumb to the blackmail of that policeman to give you the money, to give him the money to let you go. He cannot do anything. Do not worry about the police putting you into the police station or the police or a jail for vaping. He cannot do it. Do not
ask
worry.
for paperwork. Ask for paperwork.
Yes. Ask them to file an FIR against you and just do it. Once you stand your ground, they cannot do anything. Just be strong.
So see, the law says that use and possession of vaping is not bad. Only selling is bad. So if, At AVI, we keep getting news from all across the country that policemen are walking up to vapers just randomly and asking for 3, 4, 5,000 bribes. And, one guy was made to pay a 1 lakh rupee bribe. Now, see, that is just, and okay, but on the positive side, 2 police officers were suspended from duty for asking this bribe, right, in Karnataka. That is because those people who are pleased stood up against that. And I think more and more vapers should do that. You cannot see harassing vapers is not done. It is being, it's also not particular to India. In Thailand, there was this really high profile case recently where one actress was fleeced and they asked her to pay some, I think $1,000 or $2,000 in bribe. And she made a media case out of it and those police officers are fired. So I think we should speak up, because if you accept the whole corruption thing, then will keep going on because you're not just saving yourself, you're also perpetuating that corruption. The least you can do is flag it to us, put it out in social media, tag the commissioner of police and take a photograph and, at least spread awareness about this harassment because it is not legal. It is just a con which is being played on.
See, I also understand.
I will go.
No,
I will go a step.
Vikas, one sec. See, I also understand that a lot of the vapers out there today are in the 22, 24 kind of bracket. Your parents probably don't even know you used to smoke and now you vape, and that's why you are worried about it. That's what they are trying to take, advantage of, and that's what they are pushing you to, and that's what they are trying to encash on. You got to resist it. Okay, this is what you got to do. You got to resist it. That's what these people try to do to enforce their demands on you. You have to resist it, despite the fact that yes, your parents do not know you vape. They never knew you smoke. Now you're carrying a vape. Good for you, but you need to continue to vape. But this is what you have to do. You have to resist. Otherwise, like Samrat said, you are emboldening the and perpetuating the crime. You are a part of it. That's one thing that you definitely need to do. You need to resist.
No, just stand your ground. Just stand your ground, and that's it. These policemen cannot blackmail you into anything. That is, you just need to stand your ground.
I just have a small suggestion there. This is to all you guys at AVI only. Can you guys get a good lawyer on next time and ask them for how do you go about this? See, because as far as I know, you can choose not to volunteer any information to the cops. You can choose not to answer, and you're still safe.
Not in India.
No. See, that's the thing. If it's a universal law, it's a universal law.
If you're breaking a law and they have the paperwork, then that's that's obstruction of justice. But here, there's no law that you're breaking. You're using it personally. You're using your own vape for yourself. So you're not breaking any laws. So in this context, even you don't have to cooperate and tell them where you bought it. You don't have to tell them your parents' numbers. You don't have to tell them anything. But of course, I could be completely wrong. I'm a doctor, not a lawyer. So this is my suggestion to you guys. Why don't you have a lawyer on next time and we can answer these questions?
The other thing is, I would like to add over here that all of us over here were vapors. We are not vendors. We don't have anything to do with the tobacco industry or anything. We are vendors. We are trying to put our voice ahead. If more voices join us, it becomes a shout. This is what we need from vapors in India. If we can make this voice into a shout, any government, any court is going to listen to us. That shout will be heard from here, from Kanyakumari right up to Kashmir or wherever, maybe even Delhi, if it doesn't bypass that. So you have to make it a shout. We have to fight on every level, especially when you're not breaking the law. I don't know how, but you have to put it up. The AVI has got a lot of sites and a lot of forms that you can put up, and it's very easy to put it up that, okay, I was in this area and this happened to me. Put it, we'll see which one of those cases we can pick up. And if any of you guys ever take a FIR, ask them to file a formal complaint, we'll stand behind you in court. We'll stand with you, not behind you, with you in court.
But to answer Kiran's point, Kiran, a couple of episodes ago, we did have, Pingal and Farooq on the show, and we discussed these very issues, including the flight ban, the logic behind it, and as well as the harassment that was being faced by users and what they could do to protect themselves and so on. Any viewer who is interested could just log into our site and look up there. We have all these videos curated, and you can actually watch them and get yourself educated on what one could do and so on. I think that's very necessary.
Yes, I'd also suggest an advisory with all the points. They just put it on your site.
Yeah, perhaps.
Yes, we are doing that, and we are also considering writing to all the police commissioners on what the law says, and also to flag this whole issue of harassment of vapers, which is illegal and no basis in law, because use in possession has specifically not been banned. Not just that, the health minister has stood up in parliament and explained that why it's not been banned, which is because they don't want to criminalize lay people. And the government has also put it out in writing. The health ministry, the home ministry has said this in writing, that personal use and possession is not banned. So, if it is not banned, then why harass people for it? So so we are planning to sensitize the police machinery on this through a letter. But yes, it's a good suggestion to also put out an advisory on a website, and we'll do that.
Samrat, I do believe it was also in the ordinance that personal vaping is not the same. Also, there was a document.
There was a tweet, and there's also a document from the Home Ministry saying that use of possession is not banned.
Yes.
The confusion is coming because in the ordinance they left this out.
Yeah.
Yes.
However, while introducing the bill in Parliament, the health minister did say very specifically that we are not banning personal use and possession. So there is no sort of ambiguity here. It is quite clear that personal use and possession is not banned.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but did he also say when someone asked him why can't you put it in the ordinance or in the law, he said if you've not banned it, it's not banned. Simple. Was that put somewhere?
No one asked him that. No. I think it is. They knew that it will create confusion, and perhaps that's what they wanted.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past them. Because
most of the courts have already held that.
You mentioned that it's not banned, right? Personal use and possession, and they did not. It's not that at that level they are not being advised by really senior legal people, right? So when they left it out, that was also out of intent, but they did put out a tweet saying that it's not banned. So outside of that text of that bill, it is mentioned, but in the bill itself, it's not.
I'm sure there's some other questions.
There is. I'll check on the questions in a sec. But in the meantime, seeing how some of the suggestions which did come our way have been so great and helpful, to all the viewers watching us live or on YouTube later on, please do drop us a message if you have a suggestion. Leave it. We will definitely go through it, and we are trying our best to incorporate anything and everything which can work. But I don't see any questions as such. So we can get the ball rolling towards closing today's session. So, I'll invite you all to turn by turn, one by one, like civilized men, till the camera's on, be civilized. Give your closing thoughts and statements and anything which you want to add to let people know.
Being civilized is going to be very difficult.
We can try. So who wants to go first with the
most civilized? Samrat or Jaggi?
Yeah, I would like to make a couple of points. One is that May 30th is the World Vape Day. So we will do something big, and I invite everyone who vapes in this country or smokers who are considering vaping in this country to join us on that day to amplify the message that vaping is significantly less harmful. It is uh, you know it's very useful to have something, an alternative like that in a country where about 10 lakh people die from smoking every year. So do join us for that. We also my request is to amplify AVI messages, and even in fact tweet or on social media, do speak about vaping, how it has helped you. Of course, we do not endorse teen vaping. No one does. When there are 100 million smokers in a country, why would anyone be focused on luring teens? That narrative should have some logic in it. So of course we are against teen vaping. Of course we support all measures to prevent teen vaping. But we also would like 100 million smokers in this country to have access to something less harmful. So do speak up against the ban. Amplify the message. And if you have any doubts or any story news, like for example, there's a very recent story that one 19-year-old is complaining that his lungs collapsed 4 times. Now the condition, first of all, it's a self-reported issue. It's not something that has been scientifically verified that it is because of vaping that happened. So a 19-year-old is saying that this happened to me, and I would have expected, and not like, at least out of India, not any major serious publication is carrying that news. It's from tabloids mostly. Secondly, the condition he's talking about is a rare condition which does occur, and so we have a tweet on that on our Twitter handle, and you can look at it. So yeah, if you would like to us to respond to stories or something that is coming out or have any doubts, you can always reach out to us.
Taking a cue from Samrat, I'd go next. Today also is the World Health Day, right? And when you think about it, I think no better platform than something like this, and all of you watching, that our right to health cannot be compromised and cannot be frittered away by whims and fancies of people who believe they are doing these things in our best interest. So I think we owe it to ourselves to put up a good fight. And any comments and suggestions? We do have a lot of city groups of AVI, city chapters of AVI, and WhatsApp groups of various cities. Please do reach out to us from the city you're in, and we will definitely add you in this group if you're not there already. You can keep abreast of what's going on with AVI, and you have a far greater connect with all of us very, very quickly when you're on that platform. So I would encourage you to join us there as
well. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
No, I just encourage everyone not to take things lightly when a cop comes, and stand up to the cop or the authority. If you're within your rights, we are there to help you. We'll stand next to you. We are always going to be there. And we'd like it if you came and stood next to us too. We'd love it if you came and stood next to us, because we need more hands on board. That's what I would appeal to every vapor around there. It's for your rights. We are also vapors like you. We are no government official or tobacco industry or anything. We are fighting for our rights, which are also your rights. So join us. I think that's my appeal.
Kiran.
Yes. So I think on this World Health Day, I would just like to say this: if you don't smoke or use tobacco, don't start. Don't start vaping either. But if you do use some form of tobacco, consider switching to a safer product. Consider switching. So see, if you can reduce your harm, if you can actually bring it down substantially, you can lead a much more productive life. More importantly, see, you are your own best friend. You need to keep yourself informed. You can't rely. See, don't take even what I have said. Don't take it at face value. Go and do your own research. Look at credible sources, and don't be swayed just because Somebody is a doctor, somebody is WHO, somebody is the health ministry. Don't just take their words at face value. Question everything. That's the scientific method. Question everything, get your own conclusions. And see, it's a no-brainer, right? The most harmful thing in a cigarette or in tobacco is not the nicotine, but you use that for the nicotine. So if you can take it out, it should be safer by itself. I think that's my message for this World Health Day. Don't smoke.
I'll take it from there. I agree with Kiran what he's saying. Don't smoke. But I'll just take it a step forward and say, if you smoke, change over to a less harmful product. Get away from cigarettes. Get into, if gums is something that you are comfortable with, good. If patches is something you're comfortable with, good. If vaping is something you're comfortable with, take it on. And harm reduction is something which is a way of life. Everybody has harm in everything that they do. Reduce your harm as much as possible to lead a healthy, productive life. And like Kiran said, nicotine is not the problem. It is the tobacco, it is the tar that is formed when you burn tobacco. That is the problem. Tar kills. Nicotine is the depending or substance. The dependence is nicotine. Get away from tar. That's all right.
I'll just add one last line to that. If you can quit, quit. I mean, I should have added that first. If you smoke, first try and quit. If you can't, switch.
Switch. Switch is a good word. Switch.
They already started making cigarettes with that name, Doc.
Yeah. And I think to add a finishing touch to this for World Vape Day, I'm just going to remind you of the saying, stitch in time saves 9. If we had fought this battle with all our force, there would have not been a ban. Now that there is a ban, if you sleep over it, it will just get enforced someday. We need to stand united and fight against this. And for those of us who are already vapers, who've already switched from smoking to vaping, this World Vape Day, let's try to up the game a notch. Let's try to consciously reduce vaping also and switch to not being dependent on nicotine if we can. You know, just be a little better each day. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.